feature presentation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special micro episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, and not alongside me right now, but you will hear his voice soon, is the wonderful, incredible Eric Marchin. Surprise, we haven't done an episode in a while. It's been about a month. I'll talk a bit more about that on a little mini kind of update I'll be doing on the channel very, very soon. So I just want to say thank you for all your support, and I'm sorry I've been so quiet. I've just been dealing with a little bit of stuff in my personal life. And I guess this movie that Eric's about to do an interview for is kind of fitting because it is about a man who is dealing with a ton of anxiety. So Eric did a wonderful little interview with Ari Aster, director of Beau is Afraid. You might have seen his previous films, Hereditary and Midsommar. I just want to say thanks to Eric for keeping the lights on while I've been kind of MIA. And I hope you guys really enjoy this little mini episode. Eric is a big fan of Ari, and I'm so glad he had a chance to talk to him. And there's a wonderful little interview that you guys get to listen to right now. So anyways, take care, everyone.
So I just wanted to start off by asking you just a little bit about the film in terms of specifics, and I don't mean spoilers. There's one thing I've been thinking about a lot since having watched the movie, and that is seeing Beau's phone and the recent calls that he's either been given or has been taking in, one of which says movie phone. And I was curious to know, what type of movies do you think Beau Wasserman watches?
Oh gosh. I don't know. Especially because it's another world, right? Like
Right.
it's not quite this realm. So I feel like the movies in Beau's world are probably just a little bit more uh, awful.
I can only imagine. It's one of those things where you're watching it and you're kind of thinking to yourself, it's somewhere between, dystopian horror and absurdist comedy. And even just in the production design, there's this interesting focus on even just like a power outlet being sideways. I wanted to ask if anxiety plays a role in preparing what you're going to choose to follow up movies like Hereditary and Midsommar. Do you ever feel any kind of pressure to deliver on what's expected or perceived of you based on past films?
Not really, but that's mostly due to the fact that I um, had a sense of what I wanted to make before I made Hereditary. In that, or at least I have sort of this lineup of movies that I either have already written and want to rewrite, because Beau was definitely something. I mean, that it it existed in the form of another script, and then when I went back to it after the release of Midsommar, I found that that it still made me laugh, and I was still excited by it, but I really uh, wanted to sort of start from scratch, and so there were a lot of things I kept, but there were a lot of things I cut away, and that I put and new things that I put in, and I tried to just kind of swim in it for a long time, and it sort of grew and I hope deepened, without really changing its DNA.
Right. I asking about that, and you mentioning kind of starting from scratch a little bit and rewriting it and looking at it again. Is it important for you to start with character before creating the world around them, or is it a little bit of both?
Well, in the case of Beau, um, so much of so much of this film is the world, and whatever the humor is, which is very hard to put into words. The way I've been describing the world is as this sort of like evil comic funhouse mirror of the world we live in now, where everything that's awful about our world is still awful in this world, but it's just a little bit worse, and everything's a little bit, and there's maybe the sense that there's some design here, some like malignant design that's laughing about all of this. And so that was kind of where this started, and it just functioned for a long time as like a handy receptacle for ideas that made me laugh, that maybe wouldn't really work in any other context. And the world kind of just gave me license to uh, do whatever I wanted as long as it was cohesive with the story, and as long as I mean, and a big part of this was about kind of like overloading this with uh, things that I wanted to do, and then you know peeling back whatever what wasn't actually um, you know it in harmony with the rest.
Yeah, and again, like you feel as you're watching it that it's so unpredictable. You're never quite sure where the character is going to end up or go, and that's kind of, I think, the joy of watching a movie like this is that it's so spontaneous. I was curious about your work with Joaquin Phoenix, because I saw in the special thanks both Paul Thomas Anderson and Spike Jonze, two directors who have previously worked with him, and another director, like Lynn Ramsey, has sung his praises and said that he's, a spiritual kind of cinematic surrogate for her as a filmmaker, or as being an on-screen representation. So I was curious to ask you, did this collaboration change your approach to filmmaking, and what did Joaquin bring to the role that maybe you didn't see on the page?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the best experience I've ever had working with anybody. He's so committed, and he comes to the work with like such seriousness of purpose, but also with like great humor and lightness, and not only like the ability to kind of come to things fresh, but like the need to do it. Like if he's not able to do that, then he's hitting a wall, and he's going to have to break through it, and you're going to have to break through it with him. And so if it's not true, if it doesn't feel in some way true, then he just won't do it. Like his body won't allow him to do it. And of course, what the word true, right, is sort of elastic here, because the world itself is so arch and so strange. But because of that, he becomes an even more important surrogate for us, because he needs to be grounded. Like the only way we're going to make it through this movie, which is so big, and and it is long. It's a 3-hour film. But the only way we're going to make it through is through our attachment to him. And so, yeah, it was really just the entire process was one of figuring out what that meant, like what it means to be real in this environment, in this, and with these characters that are kind of invading his life, who are all very like heightened. I mean, all the actors around Joaquin are giving these very heightened performances, and it's a world of extremes, and so it's just about how do you keep this guy very real and relatable. I hope I relate to him pretty intensely.
Yeah, well, just the idea of taking something that is a daily occurrence and making it harder, feeling the anxiety of just, going to get a bottle of water from a bodega. You can relate to certain aspects of that if you have, anxiety or stresses and phobias about going outside, and it feels very real, but in that heightened state. And casting a lot of actors that are known for, their Broadway status, like it adds something to, the storytelling. You mentioned kind of going through the process with Joaquin Phoenix. Was there any anxiety, in having that initial kind of meeting with him and sort of talking to him about who Beau is and just about the film itself?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was intimidated by him when we first met because one, because I was such an admirer of his, um, but also because, he, he's, he's such a mystery as far as, how he, how, just how he presents himself to the world outside. He's been very smart, I think, about retaining that kind of mystery, where it's really just about the work with him, which I love. But I found very, very quickly that he was a mensch. He's just a very sweet, thoughtful, funny guy who takes his work very seriously. And it didn't take long, I think, for us to find a rapport and to learn that we kind of worked in a very similar way. Like I know I had a lot of fun with him on this, and I think he had fun as well. And the I would say, yeah, I would say really it's just all you can ask for from an actor is that they really devote themselves, and by that standard, I can't imagine feeling more satisfied with anybody. It was a pretty wonderful experience.
Well, I have to wrap, but before I do, I just quickly wanted to ask you if it's surreal to see your film on an IMAX screen, and if there's any one sequence in the movie that sticks out even more watching it on a big screen like that.
Well, when I was converting it to IMAX, I had the experience of like kind of feeling like I was seeing the film with fresh eyes, which is a very hard thing to achieve when you're in post, because you've seen the movie hundreds and hundreds of times, and you're just, it's kind of dead to you, and it kind of came to life for me again on the IMAX screen, especially in the first section, and with the urban section where you're in the city. That just because we buried so many details, like just tiny signs and billboards and things that are written on buildings in the background. And it's the first time that I've been able to see everything and read everything. And I think that it encourages like a different kind of engagement among the audience, just to scan the frame and see what you can find. And then there's an animated sequence that's about 15 minutes long. In this, I'm around the middle of the film, a little bit later than the middle, and that I think really is very immersive on that screen. So for me, it's the definitive way to watch the film, and I hope that that if people have the means, and if it's available to them, that they will watch it that way.
Absolutely, yeah, and the animators, the directors of the Wolf House, that animation sequence is beautiful. So I'm sure it's amazing on an IMAX screen. Ari Aster,
Thank you.
thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just got to quickly say as well, it was kind of surreal. There's somebody that I work with at Rogers TV Durham, which is another outlet I work for, Stephanie Herrera, who plays Martha in the movie very briefly, and it was just kind of almost like it added something to the experience of that one little moment there.
Oh, how funny. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Please say hi to her from me.
I will. And thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Bye.